Hi guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be doing some more mushroom and mould photography in the woodlands. If you watched my first video on this, I didn't know what the hell I was looking at half the time, and a lot of people helped me out in the comments, and one person who goes by the name of Naturefold on YouTube, or his actual name is Alexis, told me about iNaturalist, which is an app where you can identify and look at species and names of things that you don't know the names of. So I'm going to be using that today to see if I can actually identify what I'm looking at. But if not, I'll put it up on screen if I don't know the name. And if I still don't know the name, then I'll need your help again in the comments. So let's get into the video. For my first subject, I've came across a log that's absolutely covered in Calicera cornea, I think it's called. Or the simpler term is just jelly fungus. Yeah, it's absolutely covered in it, and it's really hard to find a little bunch that looks nice for a composition because they're all so clustered together, and yeah, it looks a bit messy. So I'll search around for quite a bit and set up my composition and see what I can find. But there is also another log behind me over there, which also has loads of that jelly fungus on it. So yeah, if this one isn't great, then I might go over to that one. Right, so I spent about 10 minutes looking around this log, trying to find a nice bunch of these jelly funguses to photograph. It was very hard, but I finally found something worth photographing. It's not the greatest composition in the world, but I'm still going to get the photo anyway. I've managed to find some little small ones in the front, and then in the back you've got some bigger ones, so I think that makes for quite an interesting scene. So what I'm going to do is use focus bracketing and then bracket from those small ones to the back of the big ones, and then I'm going to focus stack those later on using Serene Stacker to get more of the subject in focus. So settings wise, I'm going to be using 1/10 shutter speed, f5.6 and ISO 200, and all I've got to do is press the shutter button to start the sequence, and then I will press that again once I've got enough images, once I feel like I've got enough images. There we are, that should do. There's a stick in the background which actually makes the scene look a bit more interesting. It has like a gradient from light to dark, which I quite like. For my next subject, I think I've got an orange moss cap. I could be wrong though. I had a bit of trouble identifying it, but I believe it's an orange moss cap. And I've just put my camera on the floor, and I'm just going to get a simple sort of on the third sort of composition, and then have loads of negative space on the other third. So let's get the shot. So for this shot, I want to get as much separation from the subject to the background as possible. So I've shot as low as I can. I've also put a green leaf just in the background because a lot of the background looks quite brown and orange, and my subject is orange, so it's just going to get lost in the background a bit. And then I'm going to be bracketing this shot at f4, and then 1/13 shutter and ISO 200, and my white balance should be good as well. So let's start the bracket, and then I'll just hit the shutter again once I think I've got enough shots. There we are. A lot of people ask why I bracket my shots. That's because I want my black background to be really blurry, and if I was shooting at f10 or something like that, or f8, it wouldn't be as blurry. I would have more of my subject in focus, but I wouldn't have a blurry background anymore. So I get around that by bracketing and then stacking loads of images that are shot at f4, which is quite a shallow depth of field. Right, for my next subject, I think we've got some candle snuff fungus. I think that's what it's called. And we've got a little bunch here coming out the side of the tree, and this is one bit down here coming out the moss. And I'm going to get a composition sort of portrait showing the one in the moss on the bottom, and then the rest of them sticking out above. So let's see what this composition looks like. Hello, mate. Right, so for this shot, I spent a long time working my way around this subject, just trying to find a nice angle. Originally I was photographing it from there, and I had those things poking out with some, and a quite nice background to be fair, but it didn't have much flow in the composition. Like, it had a lot of negative space on the one side, it looked odd. So now I've come around this side and it's a much better composition. There's a lot better leading lines. The bunch of them are like curving into the frame, and then you've got the one lone one at the bottom. I think this works a lot better. I'll start the bracket now and then show you the image. I'm shooting this at f5.6, ISO 200 and 1/5 shutter speed. And I think I'm going to bracket the whole thing, like all the moss, all the way to the back of the little stumpy log, whatever you call it. There we are. Should be quite a nice image. And while I was setting up this shot, I noticed a couple tiny mushrooms at the bottom of this little tree. So I think we'll get a photo of one of those. Yeah, so I'm not totally sure what this mushroom is. I think, I had a quick Google and I think it's a Galerina serena, if that's even a real name. But there's lots of mushrooms that look similar to this, so it's a bit hard to identify for me. That's the one I noticed there originally. Then I saw another one there which I thought I might photograph, and then there's another one over there. But I'm going to photograph this one over here. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it's just coming out the side of the moss. And I've got a really nice composition set up here. I'm really liking this composition. The moss on the right adds a lot of depth. Yeah, I'm really liking it. So let's get it shot. I'm remembering to sit down this time because I get carried away and start kneeling down every shot, and then my knee's absolutely killing me by the end of the day. So I've got my composition all set up. Settings wise, I'm going to be using ISO 200, which is the base ISO, which means I'll get the cleanest image. Then I'm going to be using f5, and 1/15 shutter balances that exposure. So we're focusing just before the subject starts, and then we're going to hit the shutter to start the bracket. And then of course, once we feel like we've got enough shots, which is about now, I'll hit the shutter again to end the bracket sequence. And there we are. Right, so I wasn't going to photograph the big one originally, but I just tried out a little composition and I really like how it looks. So I'm going to photograph the big one now. And as you can see, I'm resting my camera on the ground. And a lot of people in my last video mentioned using bean bags to set up your composition and stabilize your camera when you're shooting on the ground like this. And as you can see, I don't have any, because that's because I'm filming this video like 2 days after I uploaded that first video. So I'm just using the old stick technique, just ramming sticks underneath my camera. Seems to do the job really, as long as I'm careful and I'm checking my images, making sure my camera hasn't moved. It's fine really. One thing I've noticed while doing mushroom macro photography is that you don't have to move far to find your next subject. I've literally just been shooting in this tiny little area here. I haven't even explored the whole woodland, and this woodland's pretty big, so we are going to be shooting this with the exact same settings as the last shot. The exposure seems to be the same. Let's get the shot. I'm going to focus just before the start of the mushroom and then hit the shutter. Start the bracket. Once I've got the mushroom in focus and I've got enough shots, I'll hit the shutter again to end the bracket, and there we are. Quite a classic composition. I really like those sort of compositions. Right, so earlier I was photographing that log over there, and then I said I'll check out this one here, and I've just checked out, and I think there's jelly spot fungus. I think that's what it is, that orange stuff there. And there's lots of it. There's some more over there. So I think I'm going to get quite a close-up photo of that and see how that looks. Right, so I tried photographing with the tripod normal, but I think I'm going to have to invert this middle bit so I can get my camera a lot lower to the ground. So to invert it, all I got to do is unscrew this bottom bit, pull this out, put the tube through the other way around, and then screw the bottom bit back on. Not really a big fan of tripods because they take a while to set up, but when you're doing mushroom photography, it's not too bad, because obviously your subject isn't really going to run away like a bug, so you've got time to set up your camera and your tripod. Right, so for this shot I'm shooting it almost at 2x magnification. I was going to shoot all the way at 2x magnification, but the composition was a bit too tight, so I decided to shoot a little bit less magnified. My goal is to have a couple in the front of the frame out of focus for some depth, and then the hole with a few of them in focus, and then the yellow things in the background out of focus. I'm going to be shooting this at f5.6, ISO 200 and 1/4 shutter speed. This will probably be quite a few frames, this shot, because I'm quite magnified compared to a lot of my other shots. Right, so I think we've got enough shots there, so I'm going to hit the shutter again to end the bracket. And there we go, there's our shot. While I'm here, I think I'm going to photograph those yellow things again, because these ones seem to be a bit nicer. So on this log here, we've got some Galerina cornea, I think it's called, or jelly fungus is the simple name. There's a lot of it on here, but I found a nice piece down here, which makes for a nice composition. Whereas on the log earlier, it was pretty hard to find a nice composition, so quite happy with this. Let's get the shot. So for this shot, I'm just going to be photographing one specific piece, and then I'm going to be having the other pieces that are in the foreground out of focus. I think that'll be more interesting and create a bit of depth, as opposed to having all of it in focus. And I'm still going to be focus bracketing because I want the specific piece I'm photographing to be fully in focus. Aperture, I'm going to be using f5.6, shutter speed 1/3, ISO 200 of course. Let's start the bracket. Alright, I think we've got everything in focus, so let's end the bracket. There we are. Hopefully that turned out quite well. So I was going to leave it there for the jelly fungus, but I thought there's so much on this log, I might as well go for another composition. And I found quite an interesting composition here. I'm just going to get this one here in focus with 3 bits coming off it and have the rest of them out of focus in the background. I think that'd be quite a nice shot. So I'm going to be using pretty much the same settings as before, so f5.6, ISO 200, and my shutter speed comes out to 1/6. So let's press the shutter and start the bracket. And then we'll end, it shouldn't be too long, we'll end the bracket once we've got enough shots. That should be enough, so we'll end it there. Cool. That should be quite a nice shot, I think. So for my next subject, I've got one of these common mushrooms. I think it's called mycena or mycena, I don't know how you pronounce it. It's like a common sort of mushroom. Not sure exactly what one it is, if that's sort of just the general term. So yeah, if you know, let me know. But this one caught my interest because it's all kind of messed up. It's not the best looking, and it's got a bit of slime cut off it, so let's get the shot. So I'm going to be shooting this one portrait, and I want to get this bit of the log sort of in the foreground to create some depth. Yeah, this angle is great because you get to see the mushrooms obviously tilting that way, so you see the hole underneath of it, which is quite interesting. Yeah, it should be quite a simple shot really, so I've got it framed up. I just want to focus just before the subject starts, and then I'm going to be shooting this at f5.6, 1/5, and ISO 200, so just got to press the shutter to start and press the shutter again to end. And there we are. There's also some other mushrooms on this little stump, so I might have a quick search and see if there's anything worth photographing. So for my next shot, I think these are the same mushrooms that I just photographed, that one there, the same as that. And what I'm doing here is getting a nice depthy sort of shot like this from a side angle, similar to the ones I got earlier, so I might shoot it again from this angle as well. At the moment I'm shooting it from there, so we'll see what that looks like first, and then we might shoot it from the other way. Setting up the composition was quite difficult because this root here was getting in the way. It was quite hard to set up the camera there, but I've got it set up. It's probably not exactly how I want it, but we've got it set up anyway to as best as I can. So we're just going to focus just before the subject starts, and because I want quite a blurry background, I'm going to be using f4 for this one, and let's get it. Shouldn't take too long to bracket because it's not very magnified. There we are, that's enough. There's the shot done. So I'm going to be using the same settings as the last shot because it is pretty much the same shot. So the exposure seems to be the same, just slightly different. I might change my shutter speed slightly. Alright, I'm just going to focus just before subject starts and then hit the shutter to start the bracket. A lot of people have said to get a remote or to use the app to take the photo, but just doing it like this seems to be fine. Yeah, so let me know if you preferred the first shot or the second shot of that subject. But yeah, I think I'm going to call it there for today's video. So let me know what images were your favourite, and yeah, I tried a bit harder to identify my subjects today. Last time I came out I just had no idea what the hell I was looking at, so yeah, I'm trying to learn a little bit. I'm learning the names slowly. But yeah, if you've enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.